August 4th, 2023, was the first day of 8th grade. Aubreigh stood in front of the mirror that morning wearing a light pink V-neck shirt, ripped jeans, and a pair of white sandals. Her long, blonde hair was curled into loose waves, her go-to beachy look. Her lashes were, of course, flawless. She wouldn't leave the house until they were. She looked beautiful. She was beautiful, nervous but excited, hopeful. I was dressed and ready for work teaching 3rd grade that year, and needed to leave early. I wore a black top and white skinny jeans. Yes, skinny jeans still holding on, even if Gen Z had declared them dead. Riker was bouncing around the house, dressed up for his first day of IST grade in a white shirt that had his name spelled out in crayon letters, paired with gray shorts and gray tennis shoes. Taylor was heading into 10th grade wearing a black blouse, light wash jeans, and white tennis shoes. And like the typical mom in me, I was forcing those cliché first day of school pictures, lining them up in front of him, the door, making them smile just one more time. Smile big, eye roll, and giddy laughter. I didn't want to forget a thing. Everyone was ready. There was excitement, nerves, but everyone looked good. This was a fresh start. New year, new grade, but underneath the usual back-to-school chaos, I could feel it. That little coil of dread twisting in my stomach. And that dread was around Aubreigh's cam-mates. It was exhausting to keep up with who was in and who was out. And Aubreigh? She always seemed to be right on the edge of both. Some of them told her she wasn't enough. Some said she was too much. Some did both. Somebody shamed her. Some called her a bitch, a slut. Some of them told her she was too sensitive, too dramatic, too emotional. It was never ending. I remember having long conversations with the girls' parents about things I didn't ever expect to have to talk about. Back in 2020, Aubreigh was at a sleepover with 2 other girls, and her world was shaken in a way no child should ever face. While Aubreigh was changing, one of those girls took photos of Aubreigh's bare naked body and video. And then those 2 girls threatened to post the video and photos on social media. She was 10 years old at the time and absolutely distraught over the situation. What should have been a night of giggles and popcorn turned into a nightmare of embarrassment, threats, and shame. As soon as I heard about it, I was on the phone with parents and assured discipline was being taken and that the footage was deleted. And those 2 girls got into Aubreigh's head so badly. Over the years, it just wore her down. It wasn't always loud or obvious. Sometimes it was whispers, side glances, or messages dropped into group chats late at night. Sometimes it was accusations if a boy they liked so much as said hello to her, she was suddenly the problem. No matter what she wore or how she acted, she was too much of one thing or not enough of another. She was the whore. She couldn't win with them, no matter how she dressed, no matter how she acted. She was always too something for someone. It was a constant moving target that left her exhausted, questioning herself, and always on edge. The bullying continued despite complaints to the school, the parents, and the administration for years. Mental, emotional, social, and physical harassment and bullying persisted until she started to realize it was unhealthy. They mocked her, her weight, her clothes, and her looks. They twisted her kindness into something fake. They'd gang up in group chats, say things meant to break her spirit, then pretend like it was just a joke. The cruelty seeped into the small, everyday moments of her life. She'd spend too long in front of the mirror, tugging at her shirt, doubting if she should even go out. A buzz on her phone could send her stomach into knots, not knowing if it would be another round of teasing hidden as jokes. Sometimes she would laugh along, trying to mask the sting, but later she would curl up in her room, carrying words that cut deeper than anyone else could see. We went to the school, to the parents, to anyone who would listen, but the pattern never stopped. Teachers could shuffle desks, counselors could hold talks, but the damage was already etched into her. They mocked her looks, her clothes, even her kindness, twisting it to seem fake when being kind was who she truly was. Bit by bit, it chipped away at her sense of safety in the world. She didn't understand it. How could she? She just wanted to be loved, to have real friends, to belong, and no matter how many times they hurt her, she forgave them. Not because she didn't feel the pain, but because she had a heart too full of light to hold on to hate. The worst part was the whiplash of it all. It was a dizzying, toxic loop. Friend, bully, friend again, friends, enemies, friends again. It was dizzying for her, infuriating for me. And because she had such a big, soft, forgiving heart, she let them. She believed in people. She believed they'd change. Back in, again and again, not because she wasn't hurt. The bullying wasn't just verbal. It was emotional. Relational, they'd isolate her. then reel her back in, then push her out again. They used Snapchat stories and group chats like weapons, inside jokes that weren't really jokes, accidental posts, making sure she saw them all. She was often left in the middle, loved by many, targeted by a few, crushed by the confusion of both. There were days she didn't eat lunch, said she wasn't hungry, but I knew better. There were nights she stayed in her room, quiet, her sparkle dimmed just enough for me to notice. There were times she'd say she didn't want to go to school, but couldn't really say why. I'd always ask her to talk to me. I'd lie down in her room with her and pray with her. I'd ask about certain friends, situations, and classes, but Aubreigh was buttoned up by the time 8th grade rolled around. She carried that hurt quietly. She didn't want to be a burden, and when she did open up, it was often brushed off by adults who thought it was just typical middle school girl drama. But it wasn't. It was soul-crushing. Some of it was subtle. Some of it was cruel. All of it is damaging, and in the end, the reason why she left as early as she did. By the time she started recognizing that this wasn't friendship, that it was toxic and unhealthy, she had already endured years of it. Years of mental and emotional warfare disguised as just joking. Years of being worn down by the people who should have stood beside her. For Aubreigh, middle school wasn't just about grades or dances or TikToks like it should have been. It was survival. Survival in the hallways. Survival in her phone. Survival in the very spaces that were supposed to feel safe. And despite everything that happened from 5th to 7th grade, every whisper, every betrayal, every cruel message, Aubreigh was still optimistic about the new school year. That was just who she was then. Hopeful. Resilient. She tried to lift others up, even though she herself was hurting, and her close friends knew her pain. They were there alongside her through the ridicule and the hatred. Despite the drama and being left out of a lot, we were still grateful that she had a few really close friends, good, solid ones. The kind that gave her belly laughs and inside jokes, and in Aubreigh's world, those few bright lights always seemed to outweigh the shadows. She clung to that hope. She chose to see the good. She wanted to see the good. We lived in a small town. There was only one middle school option for our town. Changing schools wasn't just complicated, it was nearly impossible. As a single parent and a teacher, I couldn't be in 4 different places at the same time. I looked into where else she could go to school but didn't have anyone to take her. And to make it more complex, I worked for the school district. I had to tread lightly, carefully, trying to protect her while still keeping the job that paid our bills and put food on the table. I had other children to raise. We talked about switching schools. It wasn't off the table, but the logistics were a mess. How would she get there? Who would take her? I worked full-time. I couldn't be in 2 places at once. As a single mom trying to make the best decision for all of my kids, it felt like an impossible equation. And Aubreigh, she wasn't sure either. Some days she was adamant she didn't want to leave. She wanted to stay. She didn't want to start over. She didn't want to leave her real friends who had stood by her, made her laugh, and made her feel seen. Other days she wavered. She'd say maybe she did want to go. Maybe it would be better. She went back and forth. And I know now it wasn't indecisiveness, it was her trying to figure it out just like I was. She was trying to weigh where the pain ended and where the healing might begin. She was trying to be brave even when her world felt unpredictable, and between you and me, I'll always question that decision. If I had moved her, would it have made a difference? Maybe I should have taken the choice out of her hands. Perhaps I shouldn't have let her decide. But it never felt that simple. It wasn't just a matter of enrolling her somewhere else. Housing, transportation, job stability, and the lives of 3 kids were at stake. People on the outside like to say what they would have done, but they didn't live in our house. They didn't feel the weight of my every breath wondering how to fix something that felt unfixable. They didn't see the way she lit up with her true friends, the way she still laughed at silly memes, the way she still decorated her folders with stickers and doodled in the margins of her notebooks. They didn't see that she was still trying, still believing. They didn't see the hope. And that's what makes this so complicated. It wasn't all darkness. There was still light. There was still love. There was still laughter. And that made it even harder to know what to do because for every ounce of pain she carried, she still elonged to joy. So, no, it wasn't simple. It wasn't obvious. It wasn't black and white. It was messy, complicated, human. And I carry that with me every day. Despite that, we had hoped for a great year. Through most of the day, everything seemed fine. We texted back and forth just like any mom and daughter would. At 10:35 a.m., I sent, "How's your day going?" She replied, "It's okay." At 12:08 p.m., he texted again, "I'm so ready for the day to be over." I asked her why. "BC, it's boring." Typical. Middle school boredom. There was nothing in those early messages that hinted at what was coming. Just the usual check-ins, mom stuff, me, hovering just enough. But then everything changed at 2:40 p.m. She sent a message I will never forget. "Mama, I'm in class with him. I'm sitting in the bathroom. I'm about to have a panic attack." My chest tightened. I couldn't breathe. Not him. I have to answer this. Then she called me. I'm in the middle of my own class, but I know the boy who had sexually assaulted her. The same boy we had reported. The same boy she had bravely spoken up about just months prior and had been dismissed about. The same boy who resulted in social media posts from people she trusted and liked that read, "Team him versus Team Aubreigh." So there he was, the boy. The same boy the school had promised would be kept away from her. There he was, sitting in class with her, like nothing had ever happened, like her pain didn't matter, like her trauma was invisible. She ran from class and locked herself in a bathroom stall. She was texting me while trying to steady her breathing. I could feel the panic through the screen. I didn't wait. I didn't pause. I immediately called the school, furious, shaking, yelling, screaming at whoever picked up the phone. "You get to my daughter right now. She is having a panic attack, alone, in a bathroom, after you put her in a class with her abuser." And at the same time, I was texting her, "I'm calling the school now, on the phone with them now." I yelled, "I told them you're not leaving that bathroom until he is removed." She replied, "I can't. I'm sitting." She was paralyzed, stuck in that tiny bathroom, spinning in fear. While I tried to fight through a phone line, eventually, they got to her. They escorted her to the counselor's office where she stayed shaken, embarrassed, and emotionally wrecked for over an hour. And after all that, the school's response? They changed her schedule, not his, hers. She was the one relocated. She was the one made to feel like the disruption, like she had done something wrong, again. It was just another dismissal, another wound, another moment where the people who were supposed to protect her didn't. And even through all of that, she came home, quiet, tired, but still smiling, still showing up, still trying. Her spirits. I could feel her struggle. And as a mother, I did all I could to I did everything I could to steady her. I reassured her again and again that she had nothing to be ashamed of and that none of this treated her. I tried to fill her world with reminders of joy. The truth of who she was could not be changed by the way. She went to every football game, sleepover, or little event she was invited to, even when I worried or wanted to keep her close. I hoped that being around her true friends would help her see how adored she really was and how much she mattered outside of the school walls. She would realize that the people inside the school walls who made her feel bad about herself were actually very small. Tiny trinkets that made her smile and small things that told her, "I see you, I'm thinking of you, you're worth celebrating even on the ordinary days." Sometimes it was just a note, or a silly conversation to make her laugh when the heaviness tried to creep back in. Sometimes it simply gave her the space to curl up in her room and breathe, with me checking in just enough to remind her she wasn't alone. They were little things, but they were what I had. Reassurance, permission to still be a kid, small gestures that whispered, "It will be okay, you're going to be okay." True to who she was, Aubreigh didn't let the shadow of that first day define her. She kept doing what she did best, finding light in the little moments, being silly, laughing with friends, and living as fully as she could in the space she had. In the days after that traumatic first day, after the bathroom panic attack, the call, the fight with the school, the scheduling change, Aubreigh eased back into her rhythm, or at least she tried to. Despite everything, she didn't let the first day ruin her year. She kept her head up and kept going. Aubreigh had been doing what she did best, living in the little moments, being silly, and making people laugh. Her texts during that time said it all. The random bruhs, the mommy when she wanted something, the plans for late-night hangouts, and movie nights where no one ever really watched the movie. She was still just a girl, 13 and hopeful, still finding joy in the comfort of family and friends. One night she texted, "We just finished, followed by, bruh, I 1 and 2. We had fallen into a rhythm, one that felt soft and sweet even in its chaos. The kind of rhythm that makes you believe, even if just for a moment, that everything might be okay. She was spending her days at school and weekends bouncing between close friends, sleepovers filled with TikToks, and nights at home with us. When she was out, she'd text me random things that made no sense without context, inside jokes, TikTok lingo, just simple bruh messages. She told me she was okay. She smiled with her whole face. She teased me about being a mom. She wore my perfume, my attitude. She was a mirror reflecting my heart right back to me. The days were full of tiny texts, big feelings, and a kind of normalcy that felt like a rope keeping me tethered to peace. Aubreigh danced, laughed, made videos, and smiled for selfies. I worried, as mothers always do, but she seemed fine and happy. But I also wanted to give her space to breathe, to feel like a normal girl, so I let her go to sleepovers with girls we both trusted. I picked her up whenever she called. I made her favorite dinners. I watched her laugh with her siblings. I watched her be Aubreigh, glorious, beautiful, and trying so hard to be okay in a world that had not been kind to her. I'd get, "Mommy, can you bring me water? Can I sleep, wabu y'all? What we doing TMROW?" Little things, the things that make a house feel alive, school schedules and daily routine. August seemed to be flying by, and we were quickly falling into the school schedules and daily routine. Wake up around 5:30 a.m., get coffee, do our hair and makeup, get dressed, pack lunches if we did not do it the night before. All of the kids left early with me around 6:45 a.m. I would drop Taylor off at her friend's house for her to ride with to the high school since the high school started later than the other schools. Aubreigh and Riker would come with me to work. Aubreigh would catch the transfer bus. This was a bus for teachers' kids to get to the other schools. It was a nice convenience to have. This enabled me to be in my class by 7 a.m. for student arrival at 7:05 a.m. Riker stayed in my classroom with me and finished his breakfast before going to his classroom. After school, Riker and I would go pick Aubreigh up at 3:30 p.m. After school, she'd do homework, play on her phone, and talk to friends. Riker would run around outside with neighborhood kids, and I'd start dinner in the kitchen. Taylor usually got home later, full of her own high school stories. The girls had different friend groups, so they rarely overlapped socially. But at home, it was the usual teenage tug of war, borrowing clothes, bickering, laughing, slamming doors, asking for rides. Every night we had dinner together at the table, always. We had our seats. Even though they weren't assigned, we always sat in the same spots. We said the blessings and then our little ritual that I had started when the girls were young. Everyone had to share the best and worst parts of their day. That was our moment to connect, our way of checking in and hearing about each other's day. Some days Aubreigh would say her day was fine. Others she'd sigh and say something like, "I don't think they like me anymore," about her friend group. It felt like normal teenage stuff.
On again, off again friendships. Middle school heartbreaks. We talked about it a lot. I tried to give her guidance, but also space. Taylor and Aubreigh would often talk about what they had planned for the weekend. Adventures of the school day, school gossip, and sometimes even teacher gossip while Riker talked about his playground adventures.
My parenting style was somewhere between nurturing and structured, hands-on, but with enough distance to let them learn on their own too. Aubreigh told me everything about her thoughts, her feelings, and her friends' drama. There were good days, too. Days when she came home laughing, excited about a school event or weekend plans. Days when she'd toss herself on my bed just to tell me something funny. We'd sing in the car, make TikToks, laugh at inside jokes like Slay Queen or Whoo! Who asked? She was quirky and playful, full of life. The weekend before, Aubreigh had wanted all of us to go to the local football game. She loved when we did things together, and this was no different. "Come on," she nudged. "It'll be fun if we all go." The sky had other plans. Thick clouds rolled in, thunder low in the distance, and the forecast looked grim. I didn't want to drag Riker out in a storm, so I told her she could still go, even though we'd stay behind. She hesitated at first, but eventually got dressed and went texting from the car about who was going and what everyone was wearing. Not long after, the skies opened up and the rain came down in sheets, the kind of southern summer storm that makes the air smell like wet asphalt and turns parking lots into puddles. She called me before the game even ended, asking to come home. She was soaked, but she was smiling when I picked her up. "It's fine," she laughed, climbing into the car. "At least I got to go." That night, she had hoped to stay the night with a friend, but it fell through. So we staved home, and honestly, that was okay too. She slipped into pajamas, curled up on the couch, and we did what we did best. Just existed together. No big plans, no pressure, just home. Saturday rolled around and she had another sleepover planned, this time with a different friend. I said yes, of course. She packed her bag, makeup, charger, and all the things, overpacked per usual. As I dropped her off that afternoon, the moment took a comedic turn. I accidentally backed my car into their metal basketball pole. My heart dropped. I texted her in a flurry of panic. "Obs, I hit the pole in their yard. Please tell them I'm so sorry." She was calm. She always was in moments like that. "I's fine, Mommy," she said. "Don't worry." That night, she stayed up late with her friend, making TikToks, taking pictures, laughing loud enough to echo down hallways. They had snacks, silly inside jokes, and that teenager buzz that fills the air when girls are up way past bedtime, saying things they wouldn't in daylight. Then Sunday came. I had assignments due, my master's program was in full swing, and I needed to carve out a few hours of quiet. So when she texted asking if her friend could stay the night, I told her no. Monday was coming fast, and she had her first golf lesson scheduled. Golf was new for her, and Aubreigh was like that, always willing to try new things. Her heart belonged to cheer and gymnastics. That was her passion, but over the years she had tried just about everything. Soccer, basketball, volleyball, tennis, horse riding, and even track. But now, golf. She was curious about the world and brave enough to explore it even when it pushed her outside of her comfort zone. I worried her friend would be bored waiting through her golf lesson, so I said no to the sleepover. She was a little bummed. She had wanted her friend to stay over so badly. She had planned it in her mind, another night of staying up late, whispering about boys, making TikToks, and laughing until her stomach hurt. But I had told her no. She was disappointed. I chalked it up to the usual teen frustration. 13-year-olds never like to be told no, and Aubreigh was no different. She had big feelings and wasn't afraid to show them, especially when it came to her friends, but it didn't last long. She moved on. Since I was working on schoolwork, I asked Nick, who was a longtime friend at the time, to pick her up for me. He was close with the kids, dependable, and always showed up when it mattered. He grabbed her from the sleepover, and we all ended up at his house for dinner that night. By then, Nick had been a steady, familiar presence in our lives. He was the kind of friend who showed up without being asked, the kind who'd help fix something around the house, bring over dinner when knew I was overwhelmed, or sit and talk with the kids like they were his own. He was just a family friend, someone who cared deeply for us. We had talked about the possibility of more, but at the time, I wasn't ready, so we kept it simple, honest. A friendship that meant a lot, even without a title. There was no weirdness, no pressure, just mutual respect, laughter, and support. He was good to the kids, and they adored him. Nick's place quickly became a favorite for the kids. There was always good food, friends, and fun over there. Aubreigh especially loved it out there. "Are we going to Nick's?" she'd ask, already texting a friend to see if they could come along. She loved the freedom. Riding four-wheelers through the fields, fishing off the edge of the pond, getting dirty, and laughing hard. It was simple joy, no filters, just fresh air and freedom. And in a world that had felt so heavy for her, those moments mattered. They were pockets of light. It was easy, familiar, comfortable. So, I met them up there for dinner. I completed my weekly assignments and before the midnight due date. Lucky me. Aubreigh was in a good mood, her face relaxed and happy. She talked about wanting a new makeup vanity and rearranging her room. She wanted it for Christmas. I, of course, was telling her to go ahead and add to the cart. I wanted to see. She had a vision. Always. As we were wrapping up the evening before heading home, she mentioned a boy, a 9th grader, whom she wanted to go to prom with. Just casual as friends, and knowing Aubreigh, she wanted to go more for getting dressed up in the experience of prom. "I'm going," she grinned, her eyes lighting up with that same confident spark she always had when she was determined about something. "It'll be fun, Mom. He's really sweet." I laughed, already shaking my head. "Absolutely not. You're in 8th grade." Her smile fell just a little. "But it's just a dance," she said, pushing gently, the way she did when she really wanted something. "Come on, I'm mature. You always say I'm mature." "I don't care if you're mature," I replied, standing firm. "He's still a high schooler, and you're still my daughter. It's a no." She groaned. She pouted. She did the whole teenage performance, dramatic size, flopping on the couch, even dragging poor Poppy, Nick's dad, into the mix. "Poppy," she pleaded, "would you let your daughter go to prom with a 9th grader if she were in 8th? He laughed nervously, clearly wanting no part of that battlefield, but she didn't let up. Aubreigh was persistent. She didn't throw tantrums, she negotiated, relentlessly. But I was headstrong. I wasn't budging. The answer was no. She was definitely bummed about it, her mood shifting into that low-key sulk that every mom of a teenage girl knows too well. When we got home that evening, she disappeared into her room for a while. I gave her space, not worried. This wasn't anything out of the ordinary, just a girl disappointed over a no she couldn't talk her way out of. We got back home with dinner out of the way, everyone full and content. The kind of Sunday evening where nothing felt rushed, no one had homework last minute or a meltdown over missing shoes. It was calm. By around 9 p.m., things were winding down. My eyes were heavy. I could feel myself dozing off to sleep. The house had that soft stillness to it, the kind that comes after a full weekend and right before the new week begins. Aubreigh was still up in her room, scrolling on her phone, TV on, bouncing between TikToks and texts from her friends. Riker and I curled up on the couch in the living room, the one with its back to the 2 front windows, facing the main wall where the TV was mounted. That wall also backed up to Aubreigh's bedroom. The second couch was pushed along the side of the living room, facing inward toward the kitchen, but still within view of the TV. It was a cozy setup, a little mismatched, but it was ours, our little 300-square-foot home. It wasn't much, but we had made it ours. Her door opened into the hallway, just off that main living room wall. That long hallway was the opening for hers, Riker's, and Taylor's bedroom, and then circled back into the kitchen, a full circle. From the couch I could hear her TV now and then, or the different sounds from the videos she was watching on her phone. Her door wasn't fully closed, so I'd occasionally hear her laugh, soft and bright, like a little bell ringing through the house. The hallway from the kitchen curved slightly and fed into the dining room, which then led to my room. A little bit after 9 p.m., I nudged Riker, who had fallen asleep on my arm, and stood up slowly. As we moved toward the hallway opening just to the left of the TV wall, I glanced toward Aubreigh's room. I got Riker up, yelled, "Love you," to Aubreigh through the walls. She yelled, "Love you" back. I turned off the lights and we went to bed. A normal night in our house. So full of love. So normal. And I'd give anything to press rewind.